Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And so I wanted to make an update video based on Google Fi service and how it's been for me since I've been using it for quite some time, kind of on and off. I mean, there was times where I would kind of like not use it, but I would find myself going back to it. And so like right now, if someone was to ask me like, which is your two top favorite, mobile service providers, it has to be Google Fi and Visible. But I'll make an update video about Visible a little bit later on, so stay tuned for that video. But now we're gonna be talking about Google Fi. So if you've been living under a rock, if you don't know what Google Fi is an MVNO service provider for mobile smartphones. And so that actually stands for mobile virtual network operator is what it means, which means that they sell you a cellular service data plan, but they don't have their own network. They piggyback off other networks. And before Sprint was shut down because of the merger, it was Sprint, T-Mobile, and US Cellular that they connect to, so 3 different carriers, which 5 capable devices could smart switch between them. But now Sprint is out of the equation, and I'll talk about that a little bit later in the video as to what to expect and hopefully what we could hope for in the future. But anyways, so with Sprint being gone and it just being T-Mobile and US Cellular, I actually think that's actually pretty cool because while they only sell specific devices on Google Fi's website, you literally can use other devices. Like you can use iPhones, you can use other Android devices, like you can use a OnePlus 8 or a Samsung Galaxy A51. Any of those devices you can use. On Fi, it's just it connects to the T-Mobile network, which by now, because Sprint merged with T-Mobile, so now it's just T-Mobile and US Cellular that are the 2 carriers that Google Fi will connect to. That actually doesn't make it seem a little unfair. Before, I used to hear people say it's a little unfair. iPhones can't smart switch. I have a OnePlus 7 that can't smart switch. And so now that's kind of like out of the equation. I mean, yes, if you're in the Midwest where US Cellular is dominant, if you're using an iPhone, you're not going to connect to US Cellular's network. But T-Mobile is doing okay, especially with merging the networks and then also rolling out 5G and trying to get that going. I mean, it's a love-hate thing. People one week will hate T-Mobile, the next week they'll love them, and so it is what it is. That's what happens with network build-outs. But it's, to me, I think it's cool because then I don't feel so bad for the person who wants to use an iPhone on Google Fi because we're both connecting to T-Mobile. I don't have a one-up over the iPhone person, so that's actually pretty cool. But anyways, so Google Fi has 2 types of plans. So I'm getting these things out the way first before I tell you guys my experience. But Google Fi has 2 plans, the Flex plan and the Unlimited plan. Now originally all they had was the Flex plan. That was $20 5 basics, $10 per gig. Bill protection at 6 gigs, so they stopped charging you at 6 gigabytes. So you would basically only pay like $80 plus tax. Unless you went over 15 gigs of data, then you had to pay again $10 per gig after that. Kind of a crazy quirky thing, but eventually they came out with the unlimited plan last year, which has been working great for me. I have the unlimited plan directly, so I do get unlimited talk, text, and data. I am data throttled, I think at 20 gigs or 22 gigs. I'm sure it's 20 gigs, but I also get Android One membership. That's actually pretty cool. So you get, obviously the cloud storage to back up all your photos and your, make backups of your device, so when you have to factory reset, you can just restore from backup, which is really neat and cool. I really like having that. But then you also get like hotel perk benefits and things like that, so it's actually pretty cool. But yeah, okay, so my experience with Google Fi, and you know what, not to blow smoke up in anyone's keister or anything like that, just to be straight out with everybody, but Google Fi has been super solid. Even before they had the unlimited plan, it's been pretty solid. I mean, back then, yes, I was a little stickler. I was a little worried about, using so much data because I wanted to keep my bill as low as possible when I was on the Flex plan. And so that did kind of give me a little bit of anxiety because, like if I wanted to play Pokemon Go outside or do something, or maybe I wanted to live stream to you guys on YouTube, I knew I was going to start eating up some data. And, there's some caveats that I'm going to talk about here in a little bit that I think that they can do to improve Google Fi service, but, we'll get into that here in a little bit. But when they came out with the unlimited plan, that was more of a better fit for me, just for a simple fact is like, I don't want to have to data count to make sure. I know what my bill is going to be every month, and I think that's the thing. It's not that, I couldn't afford to pay $70 a month or whatever. It's just that when, like when you have a bill that fluctuates, it kind of messes with me. other people might find it fine. It messes with me. Like, I like to know what my bill is going to be so I can anticipate what my bills are going to be and what I'm going to have to pay out. And for that reason, the unlimited plan just works out, because it's like a set it and forget it type of thing. Like, I know my bill is going to be $70 this month, next month, and the month after, so I'm not worried about that. Yes, taxes and fees are not included, they're excluded, sorry. So you do pay taxes and fees on top of the $70, but I have a hunch that's going to change for a lot of other carriers out there. Let me just say that. But it's not something that I frown upon. I mean, to each his own. Again, this is just my experience. So yeah, call quality with Google Fi has been superb. I've not had a bad phone call ever, and when I talk to people using my Google Fi service, they've never complained that they couldn't hear me or they're static or anything like that. So I'm like, that's good. I mean, most people today really don't talk about call quality anymore, because people are shifting away from that to like video calling and, you know, chatting. But I still use the phone. I'm not old, not that old. I'm 37, but I mean, I still use the phone to call people. So text messaging, solid, especially now with RCS there. So I mean, that's actually pretty neat to be able to, you know, text people. That's actually pretty cool. And data has always been reliable. It always has, and because of the smart switch capability. But even right now, even though Sprint is no longer in the equation, I've seen a dip in T-Mobile's network because I felt the pinch on Google Fi. But now it's actually been a lot better. I mean, in my city, it's very congested. You know, this is a very major metropolitan city, like very huge. So when I'm connected to band 66, a lot of people are too as well. And they are, you know, the network is pretty heavily congested in my city no matter what. So in my city, I'm actually pulling maybe like data speeds anywhere between like, you know, 20, 30 megabits per second at times. When it's really super congested, it'll be like 20 and 15, right? Which is still capable to do things like watch YouTube, go on Twitter, go on TikTok or Byte or whatever social media source you go to. Now, last night, I actually took a road trip with my lady and my kids, and we went to Fountain Hills. And when we went out that way, because it's a smaller, tight-knit community, it wasn't so heavily congested. And so my speeds on Google Fi was like 80, 90 megabits per second. I even peaked at 100, you know. And so for some of you guys who live in areas where you guys are getting like 200 megabits per second, I mean, that's solid for you guys. But, you know, in a city where I live at, where the network is really congested over here, and I'm seeing like anywhere between 20 to 40 megabits per second down and maybe like 15 to 20 up, to see 100 down and like 40, 50 up, that's pretty good for me. So the network has been very reliable for me, and I've actually traveled with Google Fi, and I was really thoroughly impressed of the smart switch capabilities. Like, it really held up for me. I don't travel overseas, which is one of the other major things about Google Fi that I'm glad to know that I do have this, is that it does just work in other countries. So like if I went to Thailand, you know, it'll simply connect to the LTE network in Thailand. And because if Thailand had any network restrictions, Google Fi is not restricted by it. So if, say, Facebook is blocked in Thailand and I have Google Fi service, I can actually use Facebook. I wouldn't receive, you know, a block like you would if you were on their actual, you know, phone carriers and things like that. It's just going to work. On top of my $70 Google Fi service, which is actually not $70 because I have two lines, so it's $120. I do have data-only SIM cards, and I really love having that. It makes it easier for me to test other devices if I want to. And so I just pop them in the phones and they work. It's basically for IoT. So anything that would accept a micro SIM card, or no, a nano SIM card, you would throw that in there and it would just work. It would just provide it. Now, data-only SIMs do not have smart switch capabilities. They only connect to the T-Mobile network, which is fine right now. I mean, I have a data-only SIM in my iPhone 7. I don't really see a need to put like a real physical SIM inside there, as I have the AT&T SIM in my Pixel 3 and then Google Fi on my Pixel 2. The iPhone, since it can only connect to the T-Mobile network on Google Fi, if I was to put my SIM card in it, I just threw the data-only SIM card in there, and then of course I have Hangouts as an all-in-one. So if my Pixel 2 rings, my iPhone 7 rings, and I can answer phone calls on both of them. So it's pretty much a full-fledged phone. So that's pretty much how I have my setups and everything like that. Now, the future of Google Fi is what kind of worries me, because I don't know if Google Fi is going to actually make up some sort of deal with, like, maybe say like Verizon or AT&T to kind of replace that open spot in the 3-carrier support that they touted about for so long. I would love to see, you know, to be real with everybody, I would love to see Verizon thrown in the equation, because US Cellular is like CDMA based, right? They're CDMA based I don't know if they're going to switch to full LTE. But you have, you know, T-Mobile, which is GSM, and, you know, to throw Verizon in the equation, that would actually be pretty cool. Like, if they threw Verizon in the equation, then yes, Visible would kind of just be like a backup device, simply because I would have the support of those networks. So I'm kind of hoping for that. Now, as far as caveats with Google Fi, there is some over there. One of the major things is the 20 gigabyte throttle point. People's dogs. But anyways, yeah, the 20 gigabyte throttle point would be something I frown upon. A lot of other MVNOs and prepaid carriers actually have deprioritization. Now, I'd be totally cool with deprioritization, because of the fact is that they deprioritize you when the network is heavily congested if you're a data hog, right? So like, if me and 5 other Google Fi users who live in this house, if I used, you know, 10 gigs in 3 days and they've only used like 0.3, so not even 1 gig, and the network was congested, I would get slowed down, but their speeds would remain normal. But when the congestion was over, my speeds would return back to normal. Like, I'd be more happier with that than actual throttling. Throttling is chaotic, and yeah, it's just, get rid of it, because, you know, that's just like, eh. Well, who knows? They may change that in the future. Yeah, so in all with Google Fi and my experience with it, you know, I gotta say it's been pretty solid for the years I've been using it, and yeah, this would be, you know, something I would definitely recommend to a lot of people, especially if you're a traveler. If you're someone who does travel, like maybe you don't travel every month, but maybe once a year, twice a year you travel. Maybe you go somewhere like to the Philippines, or, you know, to Korea. If you do, you know, this service, I mean, it works there, so you wouldn't have to, you know, go and seek to buy an international phone and then seek to get international or a local service from the country you're visiting. Your phone, take it with you, power it off, power it back on, boom, good to go. I mean, normally if you were just flying in the air, you would see it actually give you welcome messages when you cross borders between countries, as Android Authority did kind of show that. So yeah, but if it had issues sticking to LTE, they say you just either reboot the phone or just, you know, put it in airplane mode and then take it out airplane mode, and boom, it'll go. Yeah, so that's my update on Google Fi. I gotta say, I really dig it. I don't see myself in the future going anywhere else unless Google was like, they're getting out of the phone business, which, knock on wood, they don't, because they like to scrap a lot of their apps and services. So I hope Google Fi is not something that they tend to can in the future, because it's pretty solid. And now that Sprint is merged with T-Mobile, you know, it makes it much more enjoyable for other people to actually look at Google Fi as an option, because if their device only connects to the T-Mobile network, if they put it on Google Fi, well, Fi capable devices only connect to the T-Mobile network majority of the time anyway, so you're not really losing out on anything that a Fi capable device can do. And then on top of that, just solid. So anyways, guys, that's pretty much it for what I have to say in this video, this update about my experience with Google Fi. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section of the video. If you have questions, ask them there too as well. If you're a Fi customer as well, let me know what your experiences are. And yeah, if you want to check out some of my old Google Fi videos, like how I made a very unorthodox family plan by using data-only SIM cards along with my main lines, you guys can go and check those videos out. And yeah, that's it for right now, guys. Thanks for watching this video. If you just subscribed, thanks for doing so. Really appreciate that. Talk to you on the next one, and as always, aloha.